The following program is a Creative Magic Network production.
You're listening to the Frederic Bai Show, where sky is the limit and space is the place. Here's your host, Frederic Bai.
Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome. Come on, sit down, relax, put your earbuds on. This is the Frederic Bai Show, and this video podcast is about unleashing your creativity. Dr. Experts, we step into the unknown. It is an inspirational, magical, intuitive radio podcast as we chat with charismatic enigmas, people, artists from around the globe, musicians, singers, radio hosts, business people, photographers, everything in between. I am Frederic Bai, the man of the hour, the man with the power. I'm too sweet to be sour. I'm funny like a monkey. I sting like to be produced, sweet honey, and I am pretty. I am your favorite French Canucker, and today we're going to talk about spirituality. Oh yeah, I love that. It's the topic of this show. Spirituality is also very close to creativity, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about a book. You're going to talk about a woman. She's a cardiologist, Kavitha Chinnaiyan, and she blends her medical expertise with her knowledge of yoga, tantra, and a direct path to help patients discover the end of suffering. We're going to talk with her, but right before getting into it, guys, I just want to talk to you guys about our special offer right now in the Creative Magic Store. It's very important. It's a limited time offer. Right now, we have a Tree of Life Bengal bracelet at 50% off plus free shipping right now. Look, it's one of our best sellers, and we're giving it away at 50% off. No shipping, no surprises at checkout. And whether you are with friends or at an important event, this beautiful Tree of Life bracelet is sure to add chic and style to your day, guys. And for your information, the Tree of Life is a symbol of connection to all things. And, all you got to do is go to frederickbai.com, and that's Frederic with a C, Bai like bye-bye.com, and click Creative Magic Store in the header, right? In the menu, Creative Magic Store, and then you can't miss it. It'll be written, it'll appear, the Tree of Life, Bengal bracelet, 50% off, blah, blah, blah. And it's a very cool, nice bracelet, and I'm surprised actually that, it's actually one of our best sellers right now. So we decided to just, go, put it at 50% off, free shipping, no surprises at checkout. All you gotta do is go to frederickbai.com and click Creative Magic Store in the header. All right, let's go back to Kavitha Chinnaiyan. And today we're going to talk about her book, Shakti Rising, Embracing Shadow and Light on the Goddess Path to Wholeness. If you want to learn more about Shakti, and it's more of like the Hindu traditions and all that, and I love these because they resonate with me. They resonate, that type of spirituality and the goddess and the feminine energy. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about divine energy. We're going to talk about yoga. We're going to talk about tantra, and it's all things that number one I use in my in my personal life. Especially yoga. Actually, I love yoga. I love yoga. And I learned something new about yoga today, just talking to her. And I learned a little bit about the origins of yoga. And I was surprised, man, how women have been, I knew they were suppressed in the past, but even for stuff like yoga, even for a lot of things, man, a lot of things that women were, suppressed for. So anyway, very interesting, deep conversation with Kavitha Chinnaiyan. So I know you will enjoy it, and let's get to it right now. We are here with Kavitha Chinnaiyan. How are you today, Kavitha?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, awesome. So you wrote an interesting book. It's a very deep spiritual book. It's about wholeness. It's about embracing the shadow, and it's also about the feminine energy, which I think is fascinating because we often think, and anyway, in the West anyway, we often think of a higher power, a divine power, as a he and not a she. But anyway, it's a very personal. The topic is it's personal growth. But right before we get into it, for the people out there who don't necessarily know who you are, Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am a cardiologist, and I'm a wife and a mother, and that's in a nutshell.
Does the fact that you're a cardiologist, I'm always intrigued by that. The fact that you're a cardiologist and you're also, because you mix the spirituality with medicine basically.
Yes.
And and do you have any pushback for some people? Do you have any within the community? Sometimes I know the scientific community oftentimes have a hard time with the spirits and the spiritual side of things.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is a lot of skepticism from people of science, and the thing of it is, I'm a scientist as well. A lot of my job is to actually publish papers, and research is a big part of my job. Teaching is a big part of my job. So I understand, and I'm completely in line with the tenet of evidence base in science and in medicine. However, I think we as a community of scientists can tend to go a little overboard with the assumption that just because you don't see something, it doesn't exist. And what I mean by that is the influence of the mind and the spirit and the emotions and our thought processes, all things that we can't see, on heart disease or any other disease, or on wellness and how we perceive ourselves in health as well as in disease. So all of these things are very, very important, but just because we see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Right. And I think a big injustice. Exactly. A big injustice, that we tend to do is we piecemeal, we kind of break people down into their bodies, and we only focus on their bodies, and that really isn't wellness.
Right. It's funny. I was listening to Dr. Oz recently, and he said they were talking about miracles in the in hospitals and all that, and he says he said, I remember the line he said, sir, it's funny how doctors sometimes, there's things they see, but the things they tell themselves as they operate, let's say, on a patient.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like I have a sense like they're talking to the heart, or the, for in your case, it's a heart, obviously. But, does that happen oftentimes? I mean, because we don't know, right, what's really going on inside the head of a doctor or a cardiologist.
Yeah. The thing is, people, doctors, at least the doctors that I work with and deal with on a daily basis, are very kind and compassionate and deeply passionate, kind of people that really are concerned about patients. And we give so much of our lives to medicine, and it's an all-consuming job. And so it isn't right to say that Western medicine has completely lost touch, because that's not the truth. You need to have passion to come into work daily and to do the kinds of things we do. And we need to have a certain degree of compassion and caring to be able to do that, for 20, 30, 40 years of our lifetime. So it's not true that everybody has lost touch. That's not true, because sometimes, in the other community, in the alternative medicine community, we tend to go overboard in another direction, where we kind of completely diss the technology and the improvements and the discoveries of modern science. We don't want that. We want to be in the middle way, where we take the best of both worlds. And so that's what I strive for in my practice and in my life, is to really tread the middle way.
So where did you grow up? Obviously, Chinnaiyan is not American, but you have an American accent. But so what's your background? What's your story on that?
I grew up in India. And went to medical school in India, and then I've been in the US for about 20 years, and did the rest of my training here, and I have been in practice here for that long. And so my background is really, in terms of where it all comes together, in terms of medicine and spirituality and life, is I had always been interested in these kinds of very deep issues of, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? Who am I? Those kinds of questions have always kind of haunted me. And, I went to medical school, got really busy with all of the coursework, and all of these existential questions kind of took the backseat. And so I was like, really involved, ambitious, very driven, and went for one thing after another, med school, then I need to do this, and then next I need to do that, next I need to do that, until one fine day. And when I say that, it also means, okay, I need to get married, I need to have children. So it's like all of these things that we put on ourselves in terms of constantly getting somewhere. We're never really pausing to consider where we are. We always want to be somewhere else.
Right.
And that was my story. And until one fine day that, it was like, wait, why am I not happy? I have everything. Why am I constantly chasing? What am I chasing? That's the question I was trying to answer. Okay, why is it that I get somewhere and it doesn't fulfill me permanently? I'm not permanently happy with where I've gotten, and I need to go somewhere else. What is going on with that? And so it was just, it was that question and that prodding kind of formed the basis of my seeking and this internal journey, which is to see, what is the fundamental thing that all of us as humans want? What is it that we want? And, what are we all seeking? Whatever it is that we are seeking, whether it is in, our jobs or in our relationships or in our society or in, various substances, whatever it is that each of us is onto, what are we seeking? And so, so that really became the nidus for my spiritual journey.
Yeah. Is that at the start of your book, you write, some summers ago, my sadhana took a sharp turn that later became memorable as the one that changed everything. Is that the day you're talking about?
Yeah, well, that was the day actually I discovered this really, this beautiful path of the divine feminine. But also in the introduction, I talk about the day of this coming to this realization of, wait, I'm not happy no matter where, how much I have or what I do. So that is also described in there.
Right. All right, once again, we're talking with Kavitha Chinnaiyan. She's a cardiologist who blends her medical expertise with her knowledge of yoga, tantra, and the direct path to help patients discover the end of suffering. And you can find her at KavithaMD.com. That's KavithaMD.com. And today we're talking about her most recent book, Shakti Rising, Embracing Shadow and Light on the Goddess Path to Wholeness. So, in your book, you have a lot of, Indian terms. I assume they're Indian because I kind of read a few of these books. I've read a few of these books. And talk to us about the I'm sorry, I'm going to find the page right here. the Mahavidyas. Am I pronouncing right?
Yes.
So, because it's one of the main topic of your book. So start with that, because I think it's an important part of your book.
Yes. So for those of your listeners who may not be familiar with this whole concept of Shakti, maybe we start there and say, what are we talking about? So, anytime we start talking about the path of the feminine or the masculine, it becomes a dichotomy. It's like, wait, is the divine feminine masculine? Does it even have a gender? Does this, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So, and most mystics will say, no, the divine does not have a gender. So then what are we talking about? So in one particular path, the divine is considered to be an amalgamation of both, or a combination, or a force that contains all energies within it, within the masculine, the feminine, all of it is in it. It rests as the potential. And that potential is called Shiva and Shakti together. And so creation begins with this separation of Shiva and Shakti. So Shiva is this unmoving, unchanging, unborn, undying awareness that is the ground of all of our experience. And Shakti is everything we see in creation. So they're never separate. So it's like if you have fire, the fire is Shiva, the heat of the fire is Shakti. So Shakti literally means power. So the power of the divine to create, to destroy, to make, to do all of that is Shakti. And so we call it masculine and feminine. Feminine because of its creative potency, which is most obvious in a woman. So we call it feminine for that reason. And so the Mahavidyas are 10 forms of Shakti. And they are very specific. They're a specific group of goddesses who are found in one particular tantric path. And each of them represents one particular creative force. Like Kali represents time. Bhuvaneshwari, the fourth Mahavidya, represents space.
And we're going to talk about those.
Yes,
Tara.
yes. So Tara represents the primordial vibration. So each of them represents one particular aspect of creation, not just of the whole universe, but the creation of our own limited identity as well. So they form these limited identities and we kind of become fixated with those. But what is so beautiful and unique about the Mahavidyas is each of them also holds the key to liberation from that limitation.
Mm-hmm. You know, in your book on page 4, you write how the feminine power became sidelined. Why do you say that? Why do you say it became sidelined?
Well, look around you.
Yeah, I know. yeah.
Well, you know, and it doesn't really have to, we don't really have to use any Indian terms or go into Indian history to see this, you know. You just have to go, for instance, to things that we in this Western world are more familiar with, and that is, for instance, Greek mythology. So if you actually go to Greece and look at the history of Greece, in the Bronze Age, you know, during the Menon Empire, in the Bronze Age, God was feminine. You know, so they worshipped the earth goddess, the snake goddess. In fact, the Menon queen used to function as a high priestess. So that was really their concept of the divine. So that it was the mother goddess. So as you progress and you kind of look at what happened to Greek history, you come to a little bit further down the timeline, and all of a sudden, these goddesses disappear from the timeline. And first, Zeus is actually the baby or the son of the mother goddess. And then all of a sudden, she's gone, and he is the all-powerful God. And so all of those shrines and temples that were built for these, you know, female goddesses are taken over by the male gods, you know, be it Zeus or, you know, any of, you know, the whole of the Greek mythology, all the different deities of Greek mythology. So if you look at Greek mythology, the goddesses, including the very powerful Athena, are really subservient to Zeus. So all of a sudden, the goddess becomes subservient. She's gone. You know, she's stopped playing the main role. And it's very interesting, actually, when you look at the history of the world, that is not specific to Greece. It's during that time that the female was denigrated in all cultures. So if you look at the history of yoga, actually, yoga comes from, you know, the pre-Vedic times in the Indus Valley civilization, where women were the ones that discovered these great secrets of the human body and of transcendence and taught it to men. And then they were completely taken out of the picture. And so
women mean, right? Women were taken out of the picture.
Women, yes. So women were taken out. And in fact, for hundreds of years, women were not even allowed to practice yoga.
Yeah, I read that. Crazy.
Yeah. And then, they started making concessions saying, okay, you can practice, but with all of these modifications. So if you actually look at all these ancient the yogic texts, they're not written for women. They're written for men. And the irony is, if you look around the world today, who do you think do you think it's men or women practicing yoga more?
Right now, women.
Absolutely, right? Especially in the West, you go to any yoga class, it's more women taking yoga classes. But the irony is, it wasn't written for us. None of these texts were written for us. So we have been, and then you look at the religions, which is, a whole topic of its own, where the divine feminine has been pushed away from the face of the religion, right? And we kind of have this impression. And I went to, actually, even though I grew up in India, I went to convent schools. So, had a very good understanding also of Christianity growing up. So God was always this male deity, somebody in the sky, a very patriarchal figure. So that is what I was trying to express in the book.
Do you do yoga? Do you practice yoga?
I do.
Yeah. I don't think, like, for me, I don't think there is another type of workout or training that I've done that has done me more good. Like, I feel good when I do yoga. I do yoga almost every day.
Yeah.
And it's just, I can go hard, I can go easy, I can go medium, intermediate. It makes me feel good as a whole.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Anyway. All right. Talk to us about the shadow and the light. In certain faiths, the shadow is bad. You have to avoid it. But you have another perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really what happens, even in yoga, for instance. If you look at classical yoga, we are really taught in yoga to favor one thing over another, as in favor one emotion. So if you get caught up in anger or anxiety, you're asked to actually leave that alone, come back here and do something else, either return to the breath or return to the mantra or do something else, right? And so we are basically saying, we don't want those aspects of ourselves, and we just want to not think about it. We just don't want to deal with it. And we are just hoping that somehow they're going to get transformed without us even looking at it. But that's not really how it works. In our psyche, the most powerful thing that has, this power to transform our darkest shadows is awareness. If I'm not even aware of certain dark aspects of my psyche, how will I even get through it? Right? So it is really important to shine the light of awareness. And so it happens by opening to those shadow aspects within ourselves. Let's see what happens if you welcome it. If you welcome these shadows within yourself, because they're arising anyway. And what happens if you don't push it away? You don't push it away with distraction or by using various substances or whatever it is, whatever coping strategies we have. If we didn't do that and simply allowed it to come, the energy of it to arise and show us where we need to go, they become our powerful allies. They become our friends. And so these Mahavidyas actually have both the shadow and the light qualities in them. And by shadow in the book, I mean a very specific thing. See, who we are really, if you sat down with the question, who am I? What am I? And if you did this inquiry for a long time, you'll come to see that who we are is really not limited to the body, not limited to the mind, not limited to any of our stories. We aren't all of that because they all come and go. So who are we without our stories, without the limitations or what we consider are the limitations of the body, of the mind, of our emotions or our thoughts. So we come to see, as we kind of peel away layer by layer, we come to see that who we are is really this, what I was talking about earlier, which is unborn, undying, unlimited, blissful awareness. That is really who we are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the shadow in this context means taking ourselves to be limited, body minds. So that shadow is also a property of Shakti, because she gives birth to this little self, that we take ourselves to be from the time we become conscious of who we are to the time we die. We mm-hmm. keep living in that, I am so-and-so with this story, and I'm going to die, and I have this pain, I have this joy, I have this happiness, I have this pain, this fear. So we kind of live, in that whole messy storyline, which is not that there's anything bad with that, but what it leads to is this sense of never being complete.
Right. Of course.
Always lacking, right?
Always running. Always running after something.
Exactly, because all of us are really seeking completion.
Yeah.
And we are looking in the wrong place. We are looking at achievements, we are looking at wealth, we are looking at fame, we are looking at, especially in this current society where everybody wants to be on the top. It's mad, the competition, as if that's going to give us this completion we are looking for. And yet we do that, we seek that. And the fundamental question then is, how do we realize that we are not incomplete? That we are always whole? How do we discover that? So there are many ways to discover that. And this is one way of working with these 10 goddesses, because they show us how they limit us, and they also show us how we can become free of that limitation.
How I understand that. However, how do we reunite ambition and wholeness and being whole and following the path that you're talking about?
Yeah. See, first of all, this issue of ambition, and this is a very common question, is, okay, if I'm not ambitious, how will I get anything done? Don't I need to have that drive to get anything done? So there are two ways of getting things done. One is with that sense of incompletion, where you never feel complete, no matter how driven or ambitious or type A kind of personality you are, because everything is so stressful, and it's very individualistic, as in, I need to get that, and that, whatever, that I need to get that is in quotes, because whatever that is keeps changing. Mm-hmm. As soon as you get that car, that's no longer enough. You need to get that house. As soon as you get that house, that's no longer enough. You need to be in a certain club. As soon as you get into that club, that's no longer enough, because you need to get a boat or whatever it is that we think is the Western dream of, or whatever the dream it is that we are trying to achieve. So that is one way of going about it. Now picture another way, where you are driven to do simply because you have become an instrument of this divine, where it isn't your personal will, right? You are no less active than anybody else. But the difference is, you are joyful and blissful while doing it, knowing that you're already complete. So all this, it comes from an overflow of your joy and your bliss and your love, so that you are pulling in everybody around you, the community, the society, everybody is coming along with you on your ride, on this blissful, joyful ride, rather than the first model of always getting there at the cost of everybody else.
Yep.
So one is a uniting, blissful, sweet kind of a journey. The other is, what we are all familiar with.
We're all what?
Familiar with.
Yeah. All right, guys, right before continuing this conversation with Kavitha Chinnaiyan, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about we have a free special offer right now at the Creative Magic store, which is a Tree of Life Bengal bracelet. So I really want to talk to you guys about that because, look, the Tree of Life, for your information, it's a symbol to connection to all things. You know, with its roots reaching deep into the soil, it acknowledges its connection and nourishment from Mother Earth. And right now we have a special 50% off plus free shipping. Most of the stuff in our store is free shipping, but right now we have a 50% off offer on the Tree of Life Bengal bracelet. It's a very nice silver bracelet that it's one of our best sellers actually. So all you got to do is go to fredericbuy.com. That's Frederic with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, and click Creative Magic Store in the header, and it'll take you straight to the page. And all you got to do is click the Tree of Life Bengal bracelet, 50% off. I mean, you can't miss it. All right. fredericbuy.com, then Creative Magic Store. And, we have limited supplies. So just act fast. It's very important. Free shipping, no surprises at checkout. All right, guys, is a Tree of Life Bengal bracelet, 50% off plus free shipping at fredericbuy.com, and click Creative Magic Store. Once again, we're talking with with Kavitha Chinnaiyan. We're talking about her latest book, Shakti Rising, Embracing Shadow and Light on the Goddess Path to Wholeness. And Kavitha is a cardiologist who blends her medical expertise with her knowledge of yoga, tantra, and a direct path to help patients discover the end of suffering. And you can find her at kavithamd.com. All right, talking about the direct path. You talk about two paths, right? The progressive path, which is the indirect path, and the direct path. Talk to us about the difference.
Yeah, so the progressive paths are paths in which, and one is one that you are already familiar with, which is yoga. Mm-hmm. So in the progressive path, we basically progress from one stage to another. And we are basically, slowly polishing our personalities and our psyches and our minds, purifying our minds, so that we are ready to understand that who we are is this eternal, blissful, divine consciousness. So it's a progressive path, as in we start with the idea or with the concept that who we are is this body mind, this limited body mind, and we start chipping away at this limitation slowly. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the point where, oh wait, I wasn't that, and that can be whatever, that's the progression along that path of months, years, decades. So it's a progression. So in the direct path, on the other hand, you start with the understanding that who you are is whole, complete, blissful, divine consciousness. So you stand as that, you take a stand as that, and then you examine your experiences, the world, your own mind, your own body, your own emotions, and so on and so forth from that standpoint. What do all these things look like when I take a stand as this? And so it isn't really, cheating. It's not like saying, oh, well, am I not, isn't it a make-believe? No, it isn't, because who we really are is that. So we start with that standpoint, and then we examine everything around us, and our limitations are also looked at from that standpoint. So the starting point of both of these paths are different. In progressive paths, we start with the assumption that we are the body, mind, and we need to get there. And in the direct path, we start with the knowledge that we are already this. So let me see what the world and myself, all of this looks like. Now, one thing I must say is the direct path isn't necessarily a short path. It isn't. So in the direct path too, it can take months, years, and decades to really understand and really rest in that constant knowledge that who we are is this divine. It's just the stance we take that's different.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of spiritual practice because that's tough. That can be tough, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, who are some of your influences? You know, spiritual influences. When I say influences, I mean real people, like, you know.
Oh, real people, absolutely. I have a lot of teachers, and I've had the real honor of studying with many different teachers in many different paths. And I studied yoga with yogani with advanced yoga practices, and I've studied tantra with Sally Kempton and with Paul Muller-Ortega, and with a teacher in India who also teaches Ayurveda, Dr. Sumit Kesarkar. And in the direct path, I've been very, very, very deeply influenced by my teacher, Greg Goode, who's the author of The Direct Path, The User Guide, and several other books.
Mm-hmm. You wrote the foreword to your book, right?
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, cool. And okay, so let's dive into the goddesses. You have several of them. So Kali, time, right? She represents time.
Yes.
So what is she? And why did you choose her? Why did you pick her first?
Well, these goddesses are described in this particular order in the tantras. So they are in that particular order. So it wasn't my choice. That's how they appear in the ancient texts. Kali is first because time is the essence of creation, or without time, there's no creation. So it's that, without linear time, there cannot be a sense of progression along, a timeline, right? So, you can't even conceptualize creation without linear time, where it started somewhere. And here we are, billions of years later, and what has happened is all related to time. So time is really the most fundamental aspect of creation. And Kali is the fundamental aspect of creation. That's why she is dark. She's like the womb of creation, of the universe. She's very dark, she has dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. And the iconography is very striking of Kali and all of these goddesses, because they teach us specific things with their symbolism.
Mm-hmm. Her shadow. Talk to us, Kali's shadow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the iconography or the imagery of these Mahavidyas, it's very telling. So if you look at Kali, for instance, she is this wild goddess, right? She has a garland of heads. She has a skirt of human arms, and she has these bloodied weapons in her hand. And she has this freshly severed head in one hand, and she has a mouth that's dripping of blood. It's the word that comes to mind is violence. She's the imagery is very violent. She is in a cemetery, and all around her are these corpses. And the reason for this imagery is because she represents time. Think about it. Without the ending of a moment, you can't have the next moment. So that constant slaying of Kali, that constant chopping off of the heads, is symbolic of the ending of one to give rise to another, because there is no life without death.
Right.
A moment has to die for the next to be born. We come with two-way tickets. There can be no life without death. So and so there is this. Her shadow is obviously violence. So everything you see in the world, the aggression and the violence, whether it's in nature or humans committing violence against each other, are all Kali's shadow. They're all Kali's shadow. And it happens because we are stuck in linear time. With nature, it's a different story. But with us, when humans commit these acts of violence, it's because we are stuck in linear time. We're stuck with our stories of the past and of being wronged, and of our particular beliefs that are being questioned, which are also resting in time. and some kind of a future aspiration that we have of, which is why we commit acts of violence against each other with judgment and comparison and this absolute inconsideration of of this inability to look and see the root of the violence, which is being stuck in linear time. So she shows us that violence is really her shadow. And when I speak of violence, when we all think of violence, we may be thinking of something out there, that is not really pertinent to us, but we all are guilty of violence, in our microaggressions, in our aggressions, how we think about others and how we think about ourselves. And just because we speak kindly or don't kill somebody doesn't mean that we are nonviolent, right? So she shows us, when we really contemplate on Kali, she really shows us, puts a mirror in front of our ourselves and says, look at how you are behaving, and before you start pointing fingers at anybody else. So the light of Kali is nonviolence, because she holds that shadow is there of absolute aggression and violence, and the light is nonviolence, because until and unless we step out of being trapped in linear time, we can't really know nonviolence.
Right. All right, Tara, in the infinite potential before creation begins.
Yes.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Tara actually represents, the primordial vibration. So, creation begins with, now whether you believe in the Big Bang or there is some conflict between scientists that it didn't really happen like that, maybe it did, but whatever, that point of creation is in tantra is said to be the separation of Shakti from Shiva. Remember, I said they rest as one, so that the separation of Shiva and Shakti is the Big Bang. And from there, that whole thing, it starts with vibration. And, even in other faiths, there is, in the beginning, there was a word. So that word is that vibration, or that primordial vibration. And when actually we can see this very easily with the vibration is, when you become really quiet and meditate and your mind becomes very still, you have access to that primordial vibration, which sounds like Om or Aum or I am, or, that is the primordial vibration of the I am.
Right.
And she represents that.
And her shadow is self-deception.
Yeah, self-deception. So if who we are,
I'm
is
fascinated
really
by the shadow. I'm just fascinated by the shadows. It's always a darker side, but it's so true. And the reason why I think I'm fascinated is because we all have it, whether we are conscious of it or not, we admit it or not.
Yes.
And to me, it's like you were talking about aggression earlier, and it's like unmanifested aggression is also Kali. I mean, it's also, I think a lot of people suppress like aggression and anger. So I think it's important, like you say, to embrace the shadow. But go ahead. So talking about self-deception.
Yeah, self-deception comes from actually taking ourselves to be whatever it is that we take ourselves to be. If I ever came to you and said, so who are you? What would you say to me?
Well, okay. If I'm talking to you right now, I'm an internal field of awareness. But if I'm really talking to you on the street, I'm Frederic Bai, and I'm a podcaster wherever.
Right. Yeah. So you're going. So if somebody asked me too, I would start off with, I am so and so, with my name, my culture, my background, and what I do for a living. But you see, all these are stories.
Yep.
They're all stories. So that self-deception is taking ourselves to be what we are really not. Assigning such a truth to it that it becomes the reality of how we see ourselves and how we see, as a result, all of the world around us. So self-deception is that constant reaffirmation of who we think we are, because that's really what we do. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we are constantly defending our identity. You know, in our interactions with others, whatever it is that we are doing, we are validating, we're justifying, whatever it is we are doing, we are defending it. And so that is that shadow of self-deception. So Tara's truth, light is truth, which is absolute truth, where we say, okay, I'm ready to peel away all these layers of self-deception and open to that primordial vibration of the truth.
It's hard for a lot of people.
How do we do that? It is, because nothing about the Mahavidyas is easy.
Because you talk about the experience of lacking, and whether it is for money, love, fame, pleasure, or spiritual attainment, seeking arises from believing that we will be complete when we get there. So you touched on it a little bit earlier, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that seeking is so deeply ingrained that even when that seeking is causing us discomfort, it's hard to leave it. It's hard to, have you seen people who love their misery so much, even though they really, complain about it?
Yep.
They are not willing to come out of it.
Absolutely. It seems that it's their identity. Is their comfort zone. It becomes
their identity. Absolutely. And that's self-deception.
Yeah.
Because
and
we become comfortable.
That always amazes me. It may at first, and now a little less, because I've seen it a few times, but at first it really amazed me, like certain people, like you say, they just complain and all that. And then you try to give them a hand or something, and they don't take it. Like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yes, because the pain has become part of their identity. That sense of lack, it is true for all of us, but how we kind of make it a part of our identity differs from from person to person.
All right, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk about Tripura Bhairavi. I don't know if I pronounce it right.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Her fiery breath, creation springs from the dark void. I love that.
Yeah.
So who is she?
Yeah, I love her so much. So, so I just have to tell you a little bit about the previous two goddesses to understand Tripura Bhairavi.
Yeah, sure.
So the Tripura Sundari. Sundari means beauty, and Tripura means of the three cities. So, and everything here is so symbolic, because when we talk about the three cities, it's actually talking about, the everything occurs in triples. So, when we talk about the states of consciousness, for instance, there is waking, there is dreaming, and there is deep sleep, right? And then if you talk about, other types of elements within us, everything occurs in threes. So she is the beauty that lies in all of that, which is this power that all of us have, or this energy all of us have of desire, of wanting, of willing, or that will to do something. And that is Tripura Sundari, because she infuses everything with so much beauty that we want to pursue that, right. And whether it is pursuing whatever it is that we spoke about earlier, it is that allure in objects that is her trap, actually, which is Tripura Sundari's. So, but she is also what we call the Ichha Shakti, or the willpower to do something. So whether you are going to take a particular course, or start reading a book, or whatever action we want to take, first we want to do it. We need to want to do it, and secondly, we need to know how to do it. So that wanting to do it is Sundari. The knowledge of how to go about doing something is the fourth Mahavidya, Bhuvaneshwari. And the actual doing, taking action, is Tripura Bhairavi. So that's why she is very fiery, because action has fire in it. We expel, and you expend energy and you perform an action. And this is where, the Tripura Bhairavi's shadow is this inertia. Because that's what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, is sometimes we can know that we need to change, but we lack that ability to put things in action.
Yeah.
We procrastinate, we just put it off. And we know we need to exercise. We know we need to start eating better. We need to do this, we need to do that, but we just don't know how to take that first step. And that is her shadow. Mm-hmm. So when you invoke her, suddenly she fills you with this fiery energy to get things done. Mm-hmm. It's the conversion of that will and knowledge into action. That is really her shadow and light within us.
Right. That's amazing. It's a great book that I think most, people will enjoy that book. Can you remind us what do you think the readers will get out of the book? And
I think this book is for anybody who wants to discover, is there another path? Can we use our limitations to overcome them? Can we use these very limitations that kind of hold us up? Can they become pathways to great joy and bliss and harmony in daily living? That is, the fundamental thing of that. The fundamental desire for writing this book is, may everyone discover this, and also to see that the divine feminine doesn't look a particular way, and it is not. It doesn't. The feminine is. When you define the feminine, that the definition of the feminine is also steeped in patriarchy. Because when you talk about a goddess, the first thing people think of is this unearthly beauty and power and demureness. And these goddesses break all such concepts.
Right.
So, so we see the goddess in a different way. And so I hope that this book provides an alternative way of thinking of the divine feminine.
Awesome. Can you remind us where we can find you and where we can buy the book?
Yes, KavithaMD.com, KavithaMD.com. And there's a link to the book on my website, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the other books stores. Awesome, Kavitha. Thank you very much for doing this. We really appreciate. Love the interview. Thank you, Frederic.
All right. Alrighty, another amazing interview with Kavitha Chinnaiyan, and it's always fun to talk to people who have really an interesting path, interesting view of spirituality. And I think it's important to read these kinds of books to discover more who we are, how to get to the next level. We often say that I often hear successful people say that their secret to success is really personal growth. And I truly believe that. And spirituality is a huge part of it. And I think that it's something that, everybody honestly should read. And obviously, if you're listening to this show, you're interested in that kind of stuff. So congratulations, by the way, for listening to this show. And if you pick up the book, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. And by the way, if you pick up the book from our website at frederickby.com, that's Frederic with a C, by like bye-bye.com. And from our Amazon link there, the Amazon will give back a few bucks to this show. It helps cover production costs at no additional cost to you, no hidden fees, no nothing. So it's pretty cool. You can go to frederickby.com, click the Amazon link in the sidebar for all your online purchases, by the way, and bookmark it to find it easier. Finally, we have, I would advise you guys to check out the Creative Magic Store. We have a few cool items in the Creative Magic Store, including a Tree of Life Bengal bracelet. It's a very nice silver bracelet. Actually, it's one of our best sellers. I was surprised. And actually right now it's you have 50% off, plus it's free shipping. Most of our stuff, of the stuff in our store, is free shipping. You have to, and it's something that whether you are with friends or at an important event, this beautiful Tree of Life bracelet will sure to add chic and style to your day, guys. And by the way, the Tree of Life is a symbol of connection to all things, and you can order yours fast because we have a limited supply. So free shipping, 50% off, no surprises at checkout, guaranteed. all you got to do is go to fredericbai.com. That's Frederic with a C, bye.com, and click Creative Magic Store in the header, in the menu, and it'll take you straight to the website. And that's it. All you got to do is click you can't miss it. You can't miss Tree of Life Bengal bracelet. Very cool bracelet. And go get it. All right, guys, time for me to ride off into the sunset. And, it's a freaking cold day today. It's a freezy day today. It's fall coming. Autumn is here. So, but it's all right. It's all right. That's life, right? Every year we go through that. I'm a summer guy. I love summer. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. And don't forget, live with purpose, passion, fire, and love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frederic Bai Show. For more information, go to fredericbai.com. That's Frederic with a C, Bai like bye-bye.com.